feels like everything is turned around. And it felt, honestly, when I was watching some of the live coverage of the Rittenhouse trial, it really did feel like a state-sanctioned, lengthened 2 minutes hate sort of session. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Well, there's that old term, jump the shark, when something becomes so ridiculous that it's no longer credible by even its supporters. And so we're having this narrative that there's an epidemic of racist violence against people of color perpetuated by law enforcement and, to a lesser degree, the white population, even as when you look at these news events, they either are black on white crime, or when they're white on white violence, they have nothing to do with race, but they're claimed to be racially motivated. I don't know how that was possible in Kenosha. And then we have these pseudo crimes, and we've seen a lot of those, whether it was minor ones. I mean, they were crimes of a sort, the Covington kids or the Duke lacrosse or hands up, don't shoot, which was not ever spoken. And then we saw that we're right in the middle of a Juicy Smollett. So you've got this narrative that is colliding with the facts or reality. And the more that it collides, the more the perpetrators of this fiction keep getting angrier and double down. But it's now becoming almost surreal. It's ridiculous. There's no way that the majority of Americans are going to believe it. In fact, if you look at the polls, BLM has just crashed, and a plurality of Americans don't support it at all anymore. And when you look at their views on crime, it's the same thing. So I don't know where this ends up, but the current trajectory of the left is not going to be sustainable.
No, I don't see it. I don't see it as being that way. Talking with our friend Victor Davis Hanson, and to this point, is it fair to say that it feels like when you talked about the left doubling down on this, it seems as though if you fail to admit or fail to accept their narrative, then that's like just further proof of your guilt. That's how it seems that the left tries to get around, don't trust what your eyes are telling you, trust what we're telling you. And if you disagree with it, well, that's just further proof. That's Ibram X. Kendi. That's just further proof of your bigotry.
It is, but even that, I think, when you start to see a couple, and they were African-American couple, attacked and an 81-year-old woman murdered in Beverly Hills by a career felon who was arrested in the midst of committing another break-in and felony, or when you see Walnut Creek, California, which is pretty affluent, a suburb of the Bay Area, and there's a smash and grab mass theft from there, or 60 killings in Portland. You're not in red state America is what I'm trying to say. You're in the heart of liberal, blue, California, West Coast culture. And these are the communities that supported, the defund the police, no bail legislation, or anything under $995 is not a felony. And they are finding themselves no longer exempt. It's not happening just in Chicago or Baltimore or Washington, D.C. or Stockton, California. It's getting close to home, and there's no exemptions given their liberality. So when you talk to them, and I have talked to them, they're dumbfounded. Well, don't people understand that we supported this legislation? Why are they doing this to our community? Why is there violence on our campus? And I think you're going to see a stealth vote like we haven't seen in a long time, of people who will vote one way but never admit that either before or after that they would do such a thing.
And it's weird to see the left try to reconcile that amongst themselves. You wrote about Seth Rogen and him responding to this YouTuber whose car was broken into, and he was saying, "I can't believe this is happening," etc. And Seth Rogen was getting onto him for condemning just the crime rate and how bad Los Angeles has gotten. So it's, even if you're questioning things, there's still those self-appointed bouncers of the left who are trying to draw their own people back into line. But I think they're losing that. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was roundly attacked for that by everybody. And I use that as an example of what I call third worldization. Not just that there is no safety in Los Angeles anymore, which is typical of the old third world, but in the old third world, the very wealthy had estates and walled compounds, and they had money and influence, and they were always exempt. And they were sort of like Seth Rogen with his 2 Hollywood mansions, walls, surveillance, and say, I've been broken in 15 times, who cares? It's just property. But it's not just property to somebody that doesn't have those assets. And so his attitude of disdain and smugness is just typical of a third world elite that doesn't really care about the poor or the vanishing middle class. And I think people are going to get very tired of this. And I think they're starting to see it's a force multiplier, Dan. They're looking at supply chain interruptions. They're looking at gas prices, inflation. They're looking at this crazy open border, and they're saying there is a connection with crime. And the connection is that we have a lot of left-wing utopians that force down agendas that anybody knew was contrary to human nature and wouldn't work. But they did it because they would never suffer themselves from the consequences of their own policy. And I think now they're not exempt. It's been so disastrous that crime is finding them out, and the border will find them out, and inflation will find them out, and et cetera, et cetera.